Okay, so today I have a discussion with you for Butter Chats. So the question is about DIY sites. So what's the story of DIY sites? So that's, for example, your Wix sites, your Squarespace, Spotify, Shopify, even. There's a lot of different ones out there that are maybe a more budget option. So I guess the question is, what are they? Would be the first
What
part.
are they?
Yeah.
Yeah. So these tend to be ones that they're things you can sign up for, and you can pay either a very small amount, or in some cases Wix, I believe, has a free version. And what you can do is you go through, and there's a program that is a WYSIWYG, or what you see is what you get. It's kind of drag and drop availability to make your own website, and quite often they come with a selection of templates to get you started. So you could then, once you've picked a template that you kind of like and it's close to what you want it to be, and then you can change some of the things in. So you can change the colors, maybe the text. Sometimes you can change the images, and if you've got a logo for your new business or your existing business, then you can upload that and put that all together. So, and if you choose a free one, like the Wix free one, then what will happen is that they quite often they'll have their branding on it somewhere, and you might not have be able to point your own particular domain name to it. So maybe it might be your business name .wix.com or something like that. But then as you go up, you can pay more and more money to get more and more functionality through these sites, and they tend to work on a monthly fee basis. So you're maybe paying your 50, 60, 70, whatever pounds, depending on a month, depending on what functionality you want with your site, or what storage, how you want it to look. So but the key of it is that you're expected to do it yourself, or the other thing you can do is you can pay somebody else to go in and use these sites to do it for you. But effectively, once your site is set up, either done by yourself or somebody else, then you continue to pay a monthly fee forevermore.
Forevermore. Okay. So what's the benefits to it? Why would someone go for one of these DIY sites over a web development company?
Okay, so there's some really good positives around them, in that they're very, very easy to set up. You can do it immediately. So if you wanted to walk away right this second and start setting one up, and pull in one of their layouts and just change some text, you could have, in theory, a website up and running very, very quickly within a few hours. So that's a real positive about it. The other thing is that if you're just starting out in your business, they can be relatively inexpensive for the very basic sort of layer, usually, of what they offer. And as I mentioned, you could do the free option. Although, do you want somebody else's branding on your site? That's up to you, really. But the point is, it's easy and it's fast to get started with something. So I think that's the main. I don't know. Can you think of any others?
I think that's probably the main ones, isn't it? It's about
yeah,
and maybe a lack of knowledge as to what a web developer does. There's so much. There's a lot of people use your Wix or your Squarespace because they know the name and they've heard the name and they've heard other people talk about it. But when you say to someone about a web developer, that seems a little bit scary, a little bit techie, and people are maybe drawn away from that. So that might be a reason that sometimes people go for.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So they're bigger, they're more established businesses that people, and they have invested a lot in advertising. And you'll see if you've done a search on Google, you will then see in your Facebook, your all your other socials, you'll start seeing adverts for Wix, Squarespace, Shopify, whatever term you've searched for, because they have some clever marketing that re-advertises to you. So they've got big advertising budgets, and so they're not afraid to use them. So they're kind of wanting to become household names in business terms. So you know that, and you'll possibly have heard somebody say, oh, I just did my site in Wix, or I just did my site in Squarespace, or yeah, I've just got a Shopify shop, and that's, so you'll have heard the term. And there is this psychological thing. If you've heard a term several times, then you'll be more likely to use that one. So so if we keep saying buttered toast, maybe that'll work for us. No, it's a different service we offer, but we'll go on to that later. But yeah, that is another one of the positives. Yeah.
Well, then on the flip side, so if that's the positives, what's the drawbacks? Why would someone not want to use them and want to use the, say, web developer or butter toast instead?
Yeah. So the first thing is the clue's in the name, DIY. You have to do it. So if you're not a web developer and you have to put, even with these layouts, they give you a really good starter for 10. It's really easy for things to go wrong quite quickly if you're trying to move something, or your image doesn't quite fit the space, or your logo doesn't quite match the right colors that they've got, and what starts off as a very nice looking layout can quite quickly become a bit of a dog's dinner, because that's not what most people do for a living. They're not web developers for a living, and so when things go wrong, and even if they go right, even if you can do it well, it will take you a long time to do it, because it's a new skill and it's not your core skill for your business. So you didn't get into your business to make websites on Wix, so that's not the main focus of your business. So it will take you time, and it will take you time away from doing the core things that you need to do in your business to make your business grow. So that's probably one of the downsides. And even you can employ or hire somebody to do these for you, but then that actually then can end up becoming a little bit more expensive than just going with a web development company, because you're paying for their design and build expertise, and you're paying for the Wix or Squarespace or Shopify environment as well. So you end up kind of paying twice if you get somebody to build it for you on these platforms. So the other thing is, and I think we're probably going to talk about this later, is there are some drawbacks in terms of, particularly around search engine optimization, and people probably kind of get a little bit about that. But the thing about these sites is that they're a volume proposition, so there's lots and lots, because they're so cheap, these companies need lots and lots and lots of them on the same servers, so that they're not paying lots of money for their server space. So what tends to happen is you've got lots and lots of sites on one particular server space, and the more sites you put in a server space, the slower that server is going to run, because it's got to do processing power, and a certain amount of memory will be, because the server is effectively, if you think about it, it's just a computer, albeit a very powerful and really nice, secure, fancy smancy computer, but it's still a computer, and it still has a finite number of resources. So the more sites that go on per server, then the slower your site potentially could run. Now that then can impact SEO in itself. So that means that you can have things happening that to your site, like your site not coming up straight away when somebody goes to the address of it, and so they're kind of waiting there for a minute, and then it's like, oh, I can't be bothered, back. And so let's face it, nobody likes to wait in a website coming up at all. So the speed issues are a big thing, and then you have a limited control over what search engine optimization kind of things you can do technically for the site. Now, I've heard people say that search engine optimization people are kind of full of scaremongering and just to try and get money off people, and maybe that's true of some people, but there is a certain level of things you do need to do to make your site good for search engine optimization. And I think they're basic things, and they aren't things that you need to pay hundreds and hundreds of pounds for every single month, but they do need to be done. And if you can't get into the technical coding bit of your site to do them, then that's a bit of an issue. Yeah.
Cool. I think that's a really good point, and I think that I like to use the analogy of I don't know if this is real, and I might have made this up in my head, but like if you imagine a filing cabinet, and then all your websites are a file inside your filing cabinet, and the more of them you have, the harder it is to find the correct file. I like to think of it like
that.
that.
Right, okay. That's an interesting analogy. Yeah. Okay.
I know it's not exact, but it's a kind of...
No, it's kind of not, but it does slow you down when you're trying to find your file. That is true. That is true.
Okay. Well, we've touched a little bit on SEO, which is going to be my next question. And so I guess there's a lot of controversy over this. I think because a lot of people give the DIY platforms quite a lot of a hard time for their inability to SEO, and they have all been taking a lot of time to work on that recently. But what would you say are your thoughts about SEO and the DIY platforms?
Yeah, I mean, I think up until recently, I would have gone, oh, it's a terrible state of affairs. Oh, no, you don't want to be doing that. But there's been an interesting development in this area, in that there has been a partnership that Wix have developed with Google for SEO stuff. So, this is really interesting that they have very cleverly partnered with Google, and they are giving, immediate or more direct, closer coupling, I suppose is I'm struggling for the words here, with Google My Business, which Google My Business, and I think we might have talked about this before, but certainly in some spheres we've talked about this, but Google My Business is a great tool for search engine optimization, particularly in the local area, because you can, it's like it's free for a start, so why wouldn't you use it? And it also is the opportunity to be able to post things like you would in a social media, but Google is really keen to promote Google My Business, and so you will come up on searches for things, particularly locally, if you have an active Google My Business. So that means, you're uploading pictures, you're uploading updates, your videos as well. You can put videos in Google My Business, and it really looks like your site and your Google My Business listing is really active. So it's really good for that. So I think Wix have really done something very, very clever, and I think that really sets them apart at the moment from the others out there for that alone. Now, what that looks like down the line and how much impact that has, I don't know. So we'll just have to wait and see. So, excuse me, sorry, that was my phone going. I've just put it off. Yeah, so I think that's all.
It's interesting because before they did that, I would have probably classed Wix probably as the lowest of my preference of DIY sites, purely just because of the availability of SEO options for them, and other sites have been doing a little bit more. But this partnership with Google has, in my opinion anyway, has put them at the forefront, and I think it'll definitely, with the changes coming in this month with search engine optimization, I think it's going to put a big amount of pressure on the other DIY sites to up their game. Yeah,
I mean, definitely. I think that's right. They will definitely, and it'll be interesting to see how the other DIY services respond to that and what they do, if they can respond to that in another way. So it's kind of watch this space, see what this year unfolds like. And I think that's
absolutely.
It's very interesting because the new the Google algorithm, which Web Vitals they call it, then is it Web Vitals? Web Vitals. Anyway, it's the new algorithm that Google has brought out, and it's with the focus on a lot of stuff to do with page loading, the user experience of the page load, and a lot of that is down to the quality of the server and the speed of the server. So it'll be interesting to see what happens and how, Wix respond to that, if they make changes to how they actually host the sites that people put in there.
Absolutely.
I
think what's interesting though is the difference of, although there's a partnership between Wix and Google, if you think about the social media platforms, if you think about all the different platforms out there, the one that's got a partnership with Google is Twitter. So Twitter's got, you'll find sometimes when you search, there's a little wheel at the top, and you'll come up when you search for things, and that's because of the partnership they have. But it's still not the #1 social platform. So although the partnership's been there, it hasn't gone to the top, which is interesting.
Yeah, and that is interesting. So people will still vote with their feet and go where they want to go, and that's really interesting. I guess the other thing that we didn't mention in the drawbacks, and that I should have, but it is still going to be a drawback, is that with these DIY services, effectively you still don't own your content. They have your content and they own it, and they can take it down anytime they want, and they make it very difficult for you to take your content away from them. Yes, at the end of the day you can use the copy and paste, but if you've made this like massive website, lots of blogging entries, uploaded lots of images and things like that, to take those things away from these DIY builder sites is actually a bit of a mission, and it's not so straightforward. Whereas comparing it with something like WordPress site, if you want to move from one provider to another, you just say, you upload a plugin, export the file, go to the new provider, import the file, Bob's your uncle, assuming everything's gone well, and you're ready to go very, very quickly. So I still think that is still an issue with the DIY services.
It's like renting, isn't it? So you're renting it instead of owning it. So it's like when you go to a developer, you bought your house, but when you're using a DIY platform, you're still renting.
It's like, and cars are quite a good analogy in that, aren't they? Because people do sometimes lease cars, and so
it's cool. Okay, well, my last question is, we've talked a lot about the DIY platforms. Now, obviously, as for Butter Toast, we have our discounted service, our lower price point service of Buttered Light, which is our subscription websites. What is the difference between our Buttered Light and these DIY platforms? How we overcome the issues, I guess.
So I think one of the main thing is we have low volumes on high quality servers, so speed is not an issue here. So that's one thing. Another thing is we build the site. So we do it. We take your colors, you tell us what you want in terms of your color scheme, you send us your images, including your logo, you send us your text content, and we upload that to the layout that you've chosen, and boom, you've got your site really quickly, and you don't have to mess about with it because we do that. And the other thing is, that we're still here at the end of it. So we're real people. You get to know us, you get to work with us on an ongoing basis, and you know we're really there for you in terms of a personal service, quality service. So that's one thing. And the other thing is that, you know, if you use the analogy that you've got the outright buying of your website through a web developer, and then you've got the builders where you rent them, we're kind of in the middle. We're a kind of lease purchase agreement, if you like. So, you know, lease to own, that's it. So we ask that you stay with us for a minimum of a year, and that kind of depends on for a basic site that would be a year, and then at the end of that, we hope you'll stay with us, and hopefully you'll see the benefit of working with us and just love working with us, and we'll love working with you too. But you know, if you don't and you think, right, you know, thanks very much, it's been fun, but we're parting ways now, you can just do what I just said, and you can take your site to another provider and set up home there, and that's absolutely fine. So and we will wish you well with that. So you absolutely 100% will own your site, your content, your images, all yours. So
yep, absolutely. I think that the other thing to note is that with us building the site, you know, the knowledge that we have in terms of positioning your things on the website for the customer journey, like your call to action and the flow through of your website, is something that you may not exactly know how to put into practice, but we do. So we're going to take all that knowledge and pop it in there, so that to take away any questions about where things should go and how they should look. And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I think, and that's a really good point, Isla, because I think nowadays we are not just building websites. We are not doing that. We are using websites to help you achieve your business goals. That's what it's about. There is no point in just building a website for a website's sake just because everybody else has one. No point whatsoever. The website should be a working tool that helps you achieve your business goals. And these are things that we will encourage you to think about in terms of setting up your website, and how is your website going to be useful to you with bringing in customers and clients. So these are things that we'll be encouraging you to think through when you come to us. And the other thing is, your success is our success. So if you do well in your business, then we'll do well in our business. So that's a win-win for us. So we are 100% behind you and with you, and it is in our interest to help you succeed in any way we can. So.
Absolutely agree. Good. Well, I think this has been a good overview. I think it's really easy to go negative on these DIY sites as web developers, and I think it's important that we do acknowledge the good things about them that are out there, and that people are using them, and why they're using them. So I do think that's important, but also the drawbacks if you're unsure and unsure what direction to go in, and just a little bit of ups and downs of the whole thing.
Yep, definitely. So until next time.
Thank you for all your time.
Bye-bye.